God says, beware. God is trying to protect you from a man. His name will shock you. The name is not meant to stir fear, but to awaken your spirit. When the Lord speaks, it is never out of cruelty or confusion, but always from a place of deep love, protection, and unshakable mercy. Sometimes, the things He reveals are not what we expect, and the names He shows us might carry stories we've ignored, overlooked, or tried to forget. But God knows. He sees what we do not. He watches the hidden motives and shields us from harm we didn't know was coming. When He whispers, beware, it is never without reason. It is never too early and never too late. And when He draws your heart to pause, to listen, to be still, it is because His love for you is far too precious to allow you to stumble in the dark. His arms are always extended, and His hands never tire of lifting you from harm's way. Type 2020 if you believe. There is a quiet strength in God's warnings. It may not come with thunder or flashing signs, but it arrives in the stillness of your spirit, in the uneasy tug of your heart, or the restless feeling that something is not quite right. It could be in a voice you've trusted for too long, or in the charm that hides manipulation. It could even be in the man who smiles wide but carries shadows in his steps. God does not uncover names or faces to shame or destroy, but to heal, to free, and to remind you that your life is not unguarded. You are loved by a Father who would rather offend your plans than watch you fall into heartbreak. You may not always understand why He leads you away from certain people, but you can trust that every no, every door closed, every path turned is because He sees the outcome far before you do. He wants you to walk in light, not stumble in darkness. He wants your heart whole, not shattered. He wants your soul safe, not tied to someone who was never sent by Him. And so when He says, beware, it's not to scare you, but to save you. Because what looks good may not be godly. What feels right might be wrong in disguise. And sometimes the person you're drawn to could be the very one sent to pull you away from God, not lead you closer. God's voice often comes before the fall, not after it. It is His grace that interrupts your plans before they destroy your peace. And if you've ever felt a sudden hesitation about someone you were starting to trust, someone others may admire, someone whose name even brings warmth, it could be God's hand gently touching your shoulder, asking you to slow down and listen. Heed His voice. He is never wrong. He does not speak to stir confusion, but to bring clarity. You were not created to carry regrets that could have been avoided if only you had paused and listened. When He tells you to beware of a man, it's because that man carries something not meant to enter your story. His name may not sound dangerous, but God sees what lies behind it. He sees the conversations when no one is watching. He hears the intentions buried behind sweet words. He watches the path that man is walking and knows exactly where it leads. God wants better for you. He wants your story to be written in joy, not in regret. He wants your steps to echo peace, not pain. So trust Him. Trust that if He is pulling you back, it is because what lies ahead isn't meant for you. It may hurt for a moment, but it will heal you for a lifetime. Type 1111 if you trust in God. There are people we meet who feel like blessings at first, and their presence might even seem like an answer to prayer. But the enemy is clever. He does not always come with horns and fury. Sometimes, he wears a smile and speaks the language of flattery. Sometimes, he introduces you to someone who seems like everything you've prayed for, only to reveal much later that they were sent to break you, not build you. But God sees through it all. He sees what's hiding beneath the surface, and when He speaks your spirit into awareness, listen, you are not being paranoid, you are being protected. A classified 7-second morning ritual, once buried in CIA files, is quietly transforming financial lives. In under 30 seconds, it helps shift the mind from scarcity to wealth, with many reporting surprise income and peace. Click the link in the comments below before the page is removed. God doesn't need your understanding before He moves. He only asks for your trust. He does not require your full vision, only your full obedience. When He reveals a name to beware of, it may come through a dream, a sudden distance, or a shift you didn't expect. And though it may not make sense now, one day, you will look back and thank Him for every moment. He blocked the wrong door, delayed the wrong connection, or ended something you were desperate to keep. You will weep with gratitude instead of sorrow, because what felt like loss was really God's way of guarding the treasure He placed inside you. He never leaves you exposed. He will not let the wolves dress His friends without whispering to your soul to look again. He doesn't just care about your today, He cares about your tomorrow. That is why He will ask you to walk away, even when your heart is trying to hold on. He knows the full truth. He has seen the parts you haven't seen yet. And when He warns you of someone, it's because He loves you far too much to let you be fooled. You are His child. You are precious beyond words. And there is no part of your life that He overlooks, not even your relationships. So do not ignore the gentle nudge. Don't dismiss the quiet whisper. Don't rush past the red flags just because the name doesn't sound harmful. God's ways are higher, and His vision is perfect. If He tells you a man is not from Him, then let him go. There are people who walk into your life wearing smiles, speaking softly and acting kind, yet carry an unseen weight meant to pull your soul away from its light. God is not just calling you to stay alert. He is moving in love to keep you from something that would have broken you, if not for His mercy. What feels like heartbreak now may one day be the very reason you thank Him with tears in your eyes and peace in your heart. Type 1010 if you're trusting His protection. There's a reason you felt something shift when He entered your life. At first, it may have felt like peace. Maybe you mistook charm for character. Maybe the attention felt like healing after a long, lonely season. The connection seemed easy, almost too perfect, and it made you wonder if maybe, just maybe, He was sent from above. But somewhere deep inside, a voice kept pulling at you. A restlessness began to grow, though you couldn't quite explain it. God was speaking not to confuse you, but to warn you before the path grew too tangled to escape from. He saw what you couldn't. He knew what you were about to face, and He couldn't bear to watch you walk into it unaware. God doesn't need to shout to get your attention. Often, He speaks through the silence. In the unease you feel when you pray, He allows delays, closes doors, and sends signs that may seem painful in the moment, but they are stitched with love. Every time He places a barrier between you and someone you thought you needed, it is His way of covering you from something far more damaging than rejection. Because God's protection doesn't always look like peace. Sometimes it looks like a sudden ending. Sometimes it feels like loneliness. Sometimes it feels like loss. But underneath it all, it's love. You may not understand why He had to step in. You may cry out, asking why it had to end so suddenly, or why someone who seemed so good turned out to be not what they appeared. But God is not a God of confusion. He will never tear something apart that was meant to stand. If it was pulled away, it's because it was never built on truth. If it dissolved before it could grow, it's because the foundation was not what it seemed. He knows how fragile your heart is, and He knows what would have happened if He hadn't interrupted the story. So if the name He brings to your attention shakes you, if it feels personal, unexpected, or even painful, do not run from it. Ask Him for peace. Ask Him to help you release what was never meant to stay. Because your healing is more important than holding on to something harmful. Your future is more precious than a false promise wrapped in pretty words. And your faith will grow stronger when you realize that God doesn't just want you to survive. He wants you to flourish. Type 555 if you know God is watching over you. This world is full of voices that try to tell you to follow your feelings. They say love is enough. They say timing will make everything work. But God never intended for you to settle for someone who would drain your spirit. He never wanted you to stay in a place where your joy was constantly tested, your worth constantly questioned, or your faith slowly fading. That's why he speaks. That's why he stirs your spirit. That's why he removes people, even when you think you need them, because he knows when love is no longer love, but something that simply feels familiar. He knows when someone is not what they claim to be. And no matter how convincing they are, no matter how much you tried to make it work, God has the final word. There are times you will feel alone after he removes someone. You might even feel like you were wrong to trust in the first place, but trusting was never the mistake. Trusting someone who wasn't trustworthy isn't your failure. It's what happens in a broken world. What matters is that you listened when God called you back, that you let go when he asked you to, that you believed his no was still a blessing, even when it didn't feel like one. His love will always fill the spaces that feel empty, and what he brings next will never require you to doubt yourself, question your worth, or beg for peace. There is peace coming. It may not look like the person you thought would stay. It may not sound like the name you once whispered in prayer, but it will feel like rest. It will feel like freedom. It will feel like sunlight after a long, cold season of confusion and fear. God is not punishing you. He is preserving you. He is keeping you whole for something sacred, something real, something that reflects his heart and honors yours. Hold on to hope, even when it feels like everything is unraveling. What you're letting go of now is not the end, it's the beginning of healing. It's the start of something new. And one day, when you're standing in a place of peace, looking back at everything God saved you from, you will finally understand why the warning came when it did, why that man was never meant to stay, and why the name he revealed was not one to build a future with. The man God is pulling you away from may not be a stranger. He may not look like the kind of person you'd ever fear. But God doesn't judge by appearances. He sees the heart. He reads the intentions. He watches every word spoken in secret, every plan made in the dark. And out of his deep love for you, he is stepping in now, not to shame you, but to shield you. Type 1212 if you walk by faith, not by sight. Do you know, inside your brain is a small region linked to wealth and success, once buried in restricted research and hidden in CIA files. This newly revealed frequency is helping people replace stress with financial ease, and God has guided you here. Click the link in the description and comments to activate this hidden brainwave now. There are people who walk into your life not to stay, but to serve as a lesson. God allows these encounters to awaken you, to grow your spirit, and sometimes to test your trust in him. It's hard to accept when someone you believed in begins to change. It's harder when you realize they never truly showed you who they were to begin with, but God never leaves you blind. When he sees your heart leaning towards something that could damage your soul, he speaks. He doesn't remain silent while danger grows. He reaches for you. He puts his hands between you and what wants to steal your peace, even when it's someone you love, even when it's someone you hoped was part of your destiny. You may have felt torn lately, confused by mixed signals. At times, comforted by their presence. At others, disturbed by the unease that grows inside you. This is not your imagination. This is not fear. This is the Spirit of God gently pressing against your heart, telling you to open your eyes. He knows when someone's influence will lead you away from your purpose. He knows when the path you're walking with another person starts to bend toward destruction. And he knows exactly when to say, enough. If you've felt the urge to withdraw, to reflect, or to walk away, do not ignore it. The Lord is whispering. And when God whispers, it is always in love. The enemy is patient. He doesn't always come in loud storms. Sometimes, he sends people dressed in everything you ever prayed for. But what they bring is not peace. It's confusion dressed as attention, distraction dressed as care, and instability masked as love. And because it feels familiar, because it gives just enough to keep you close, you begin to overlook the warning signs. You begin to reason away your discernment. But God never calls you to silence your spirit. He never asks you to shrink your faith to make room for someone who does not honor your soul. If you feel like you've been drifting from prayer, if your joy has been unstable, if your trust in God has grown faint since this man entered your life, pay attention. That is not coincidence. That is a signal. That is your loving Father trying to awaken your heart before it becomes entangled with something never meant for you. There is pain in walking away, but there is deeper pain in staying too long. God never asks you to carry what He has already tried to lift from your life. When He says, "This is not the one," it is not a rejection of your hopes, it is the redirection of your path. He knows the kind of love you were made for, a love that is steady, a love that reflects His presence, a love that builds your faith, not weakens it. And the truth is, not everyone you love is meant to love you back in the way God intends. That's not failure. That's not shame. That's protection. That's grace. Type yes if you trust God to lead your heart safely. It takes courage to let go. It takes even more to let go of someone you thought would be part of your future. But God is not removing something good. He is removing what would have blocked something better. What feels like heartbreak now will one day become the reason you found healing, peace, and purpose. What feels like confusion now will become the clarity that led you to something real. The name that once brought you hope might now bring you pain, but God will bring you through it, and He will never leave you empty. You are not walking alone. Every step you take away from what He warned you about is a step closer to the fullness of His plan for you. You don't need to beg for closure from someone who never had the capacity to honor your heart. You don't need to chase explanations or force understanding. All you need is trust. Trust that if God said no, then it was never meant to be your yes. Trust that He is a good Father who never withholds without preparing something more beautiful ahead. There is a deep, sacred love that God has for you. It is not fragile. It does not waver with circumstances. It does not wait for you to be perfect. It simply stays. And because of that love, He will keep speaking. He will keep guiding. And when needed, He will even remove you from what you were too afraid to leave. He wants your heart free. He wants your soul steady. He wants your future strong. And that means some people can't go with you. The name He showed you is not your enemy. It's just not your assignment. Not everyone in your life is meant to be your partner in purpose. Some were simply part of the process. And when their role is done, you have to release them with grace, not bitterness. Let go in peace, knowing that God is still writing your story. And what He writes next will not require you to lose yourself. It will not require you to silence your spirit or dim your faith. It will invite you into a love that mirrors His own pure, unwavering, and rooted in truth. And when He warns you, it is not out of fear, it is out of love so deep and holy that He would rather break your heart for a moment than let someone else break your spirit for a lifetime. His love is not silent when danger is near. It is active, it intervenes, it leads you away with urgency, even if you don't yet understand why. Type 1919 to receive miracles only God can give. There are seasons in life where we meet people who seem like they were sent to fill a space we've been praying over. They come at the right time, say the right words, and offer companionship that feels like a gift. And yet, beneath the appearance of peace, your spirit starts to feel unsettled. You pray, but the peace doesn't grow. You ask for signs, and instead of clarity, you feel hesitation. God is not the author of confusion, but He will allow the confusion to grow if it keeps you from bonding with someone who is not aligned with your purpose. A 7-second brainwave ritual, once reserved for elite people and hidden in CIA files, is now public, and people call it the 30-second miracle. Scientists say it awakens a dormant brain center tied to wealth and blessings. Click the link in the comments below. before it's deleted again from the internet. The man God is trying to protect you from may not be wicked in the world's eyes, but God sees the unseen. He knows how a relationship can quietly pull you from your faith. He knows when a man's influence over your heart will eventually silence your joy, control your light, and dull your discernment. And so he warns you. Not in a loud voice, but in that quiet knowing that grows stronger the longer you stay near the wrong presence. He loves you too much to remain silent while you step closer to someone who does not carry his heart. The Lord does not just want you to be happy for a season. He wants you to be whole for a lifetime. That's why some names you were ready to build with will suddenly fall away. That's why some connections you felt deeply drawn to begin to unravel without clear explanation. Because God is intervening, and when He intervenes, it is never to punish, but to protect. This man may know how to say all the right things. He may even know Scripture, speak blessings, and attend church, but fruit matters more than words. God examines what grows from someone's life, not what they claim, but what they carry. If peace fades around him, if your prayer life weakens near him, if your soul grows heavy despite your efforts to justify the connection, listen to that. That is not your imagination. That is God's protection. Type 666 if you trust Jesus to pull you back before it's too late. Even if others don't see the red flags, even if people praise the connection, your relationship with God must speak louder than public opinion. What others celebrate may not be what heaven approves. And when God shows you the truth, He won't always shout it in front of everyone. He speaks to you personally, in the quiet of your spirit, because you are the one He's protecting. You are the one He loves. And He doesn't need the crowd's approval to guide your steps. All He needs is your trust. Letting go of someone God never sent is painful. But staying with someone God has removed His hand from will hurt far more in the end. Trust the distance. Trust the disruption. Trust the way God reroutes your path when danger is ahead. He has never failed you before, and He will not start now. His warnings are not interruptions. They are invitations to freedom. They are signs that He still sees you, still hears your prayers, and still cares about every detail of your heart. You may be tempted to hold on, to give one more chance, to wait for change. But ask yourself, are you trying to rescue something God is asking you to release? Are you trying to build something He never laid a foundation for? If the answer is yes, then you must remember this. God will never bless what He has already warned you about. He will not force peace into a place where you keep inviting chaos. He will not fight you to let go, but He will keep whispering until you're ready. You are worth more than empty promises and uncertain affection. You were created for more than emotional games and spiritual unrest. God did not form you in love to watch you suffer in confusion. He is not distant. He is near. He is right here, even now, holding your heart as you wrestle with the truth He's revealing. He is the one wiping your tears even before they fall. He knows the ache of saying goodbye to someone you thought was the answer. But He also knows the beauty of what waits when you finally surrender what was never meant to stay. One day, you will look back on this season and realize it was the turning point. The moment you chose God's voice over your own plans. The moment you listened when it hurt. The moment you trusted Him enough to walk away. And on that day, you will not feel regret, you will feel relief. You will thank Him for saving you, even from what you thought you wanted. You will rejoice in the space He created by removing the wrong man, because it made room for the blessings He has been preparing just for you. So do not fear the loss. God is not taking something from you. He is giving something greater to you. It may not be clear yet. The path may still feel foggy, but He is leading, and He is faithful. The name that once brought you joy may now bring pain, but it will not define your future. God is still writing, and His stories always lead to redemption. You have not missed your promise. You have not delayed your purpose. You are simply being repositioned by the one who sees the end from the beginning. That's what makes it feel confusing. But God doesn't ask you to judge the situation with your eyes. He invites you to trust His vision, because He sees through the surface. He sees what your heart cannot yet hold. And when He warns you, it's because He knows what's coming if you stay in what He's asking you to step away from. Type 2323 if you believe God reveals what the eyes can't see. This is not about fear. This is about freedom. This is about the kind of protection that runs deeper than understanding. Sometimes the person who once comforted you begins to carry a presence that unsettles your peace. At first, it doesn't make sense. Nothing about the way they speak or move seems threatening. But your spirit senses something. The more you draw close, the more your joy feels distant. The more you try to make it work, the more your confidence in God begins to fade. This is not coincidence. It is not your imagination. It is the Holy Spirit gently stirring you, calling you back to a place of clarity and safety. A 7-second brainwave ritual uncovered from sealed records and hidden in CIA files is transforming financial lives. It activates a forgotten abundance channel in the brain, leading to new financial opportunities and cleared debts. Click the link in the comments below before it disappears. You don't always need a reason to walk away when God gives you peace in doing so. There are times when logic will fail, when the facts may appear in their favor, but the fruit tells a different story. And God always watches the fruit. He sees what the heart produces over time. He sees how a man's presence affects the atmosphere of your life. Does it draw you closer to the Lord? Or does it fill your days with confusion and internal tension that you can't quite explain? God's presence brings peace, not chaos. And any relationship that continually pulls you away from stillness, prayer, or hope is not something God is blessing. He knows that some people are not evil outright, but they are distractions designed to detour your soul from its divine direction. They may not harm you with words or wounds, but with silence, manipulation, inconsistency, and charm that keeps you doubting your discernment. God sees that. And when He gives you signs, when He presses your spirit to pay attention, He is not trying to take something good away from you. He is pulling you away from what is quietly stealing your strength. There's a moment in every heart when we have to choose between what feels familiar and what God is saying, and that moment is sacred. That moment holds power, because that is the place where faith grows or fades. That is the place where destinies shift. If you feel God has been nudging you, whispering gently through moments of discomfort, don't brush it aside. Take it seriously. He loves you too much to let you walk into a future tied to someone He did not send. Type Amen if you believe God is your greatest protector. It's hard to admit that someone you care about may not be meant to stay. It's even harder when you've already made room for them in your prayers, your plans, and your heart. But there is a freedom in surrendering that is more beautiful than any temporary attachment. There is peace in saying, God, I don't understand this, but I trust you enough to let go. And the moment you do that, heaven moves. God is not cruel. He does not enjoy your pain. He is not careless with your emotions. Every time He asks you to release someone, He is holding something better in His hands. He is preparing a peace that won't require you to sacrifice your worth. He is shaping a future that won't demand that you constantly question yourself. He is guiding you to a place where love will not feel like fear and trust will not feel like guessing. You may feel torn between your heart and His voice, but remember this: your heart can be deceived, but His voice never lies. Your emotions may blur your vision, but His Spirit always sees clearly. And when He tells you a man is not what he appears to be, it's not rejection, it's redemption. It's not a punishment, it's a gift. A quiet, soul-saving gift that might only make sense years from now when you look back and see everything He saved you from. You don't have to fight to hold on to what God is removing. You don't have to explain your discernment to people who don't hear what you hear in prayer. You only have to trust that the God who made you knows how to keep you. If He's asking you to release a name, if He's calling you away from a man whose presence has begun to feel heavy instead of healing, then know this: it's because you are worth too much to stay in something that slowly chips away at your spirit. One day, you'll thank Him for the no. You'll weep with gratitude over the closed door. And you'll realize that God's protection was never meant to harm you. It was always meant to rescue you from pain, from regret, from a future that didn't carry His light. And when the right one comes, when the man God truly sends enters your life, you will understand why the warning came before. Because real love will never make you feel far from God. Real love will walk with you toward Him, not away. Real love will lift your spirit, not leave it in question. So take the warning seriously. Take the stirring in your heart as His mercy. Take the confusion as a call to return to clarity. And take His word as truth, even when it asks you to walk away from someone you thought might stay. This is not the end. This is a beginning, a holy redirection. Let Him lead, let Him protect, let Him love you the way only a perfect Father can. When He shows you something, even something painful, it is never without purpose. Every warning from God is soaked in love, spoken softly through the quiet places of your soul, whispering to your heart before the storm comes. That whisper is His mercy. Type 1111 if you choose to walk in God's direction, even when it hurts. There are moments in life when God's voice becomes the only anchor you can depend on. You might have once leaned on someone's promises, on a man's affection, on his words that felt sincere. And perhaps, in your longing for connection, you began to overlook the subtle cracks that only God could see clearly. You ignored the unease. You silenced the quiet questions that stirred late at night. You told yourself that love covers all things, but love, true love, does not disguise itself in confusion. And God, in His infinite love, does not let you stay where you are slowly losing yourself. He is stepping in now, not with thunder, not with anger, but with a soft pressing on your heart that says, "Daughter, this is not my will for you." When God moves this way, it is never to condemn. It is to gently lift you from what was never meant to hold you. Sometimes He allows the comfort to crumble so that you can finally see the truth underneath it. Sometimes He lets the connection shake so your feet are no longer planted in false peace. And though it hurts now, it is His mercy that shakes what needs to fall. Using a simple 7-second brainwave ritual, once classified and hidden in CIA files, can unlock wealth, freedom, and success already inside you. This discovery is helping thousands step into abundance, and God has led you here for a reason. Click the link in the description and comments below to awaken this money magnet frequency today. There is a kind of man who enters your life not to build, but to subtly pull. Pull your attention, pull your focus, pull your energy until you are left feeling confused, worn, and no longer able to hear God clearly. That's not love, that's not covering, and that's not from God. When He tells you to beware, He is saving your future. Because a man can speak of love and still carry intentions that are selfish, harmful, or tied to a path far from God's plan for you. And even if you don't see the danger right away, even if you see good qualities, kindness, or glimpses of what you hoped for, remember that the enemy doesn't always come with hate. Sometimes he comes through distraction, dressed in comfort, speaking just enough truth to gain your trust. God is calling you to sharpen your spirit, to stop looking with only your eyes and start seeing with your heart the part of you where He speaks most clearly. The name He brings to your spirit might leave you stunned. It may be someone you prayed for, someone you thought had changed, but God does not need to explain the full picture for you to obey. If He says step away, step away. If He shows you silence, don't force words. If He places distance, Do not chase. His warnings are not random. They are the loving signals of a Father who knows what your heart can handle and what would eventually tear you apart. Type 2020 to claim clarity, peace, and strength to obey God. Some of God's greatest blessings are the doors He shuts. Some of His loudest protections are the people He removes. You might cry. You might feel abandoned. But soon, your tears will water the ground where new things will grow. Peace will take root again. Joy will rise again. Because nothing surrendered to God ever goes to waste. He sees the nights you wrestle between your desires and His direction. He knows the weight of letting go, but He also knows the pain that would come if you held on too long. You don't need to carry shame. You don't need to pretend you saw it coming. God does not require you to be perfect, only willing to trust Him when everything inside you wants to believe there's still hope with that man. Willing to believe that what's ahead is better than what you're being asked to release. Willing to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you started listening. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your healing. What you thought was love was only the surface. God has more depth, more peace, more alignment with your spirit. And one day, you'll see why this disconnection had to happen. You'll see how God spared you from cycles of confusion, from years of compromise, and from settling in a life that didn't reflect who you truly are in Him. You were made for more than empty words and almost love. You were made to be pursued with honor, protected in spirit, and cherished in prayer. And if someone cannot do that, if a man cannot walk in step with your faith, cannot build with God at the center, cannot love you without conditions, then God is calling you to let go, not to lose, but to rise. He is calling you to trust Him again, to believe that His no is a higher kind of yes, to see His warnings as the deepest form of love. Because any man who leads you away from God is not a gift, he is a distraction. And you are far too precious to waste your energy on something that was never aligned with your purpose. So breathe, release the name, let God hold the pieces. Let Him fill the space you're tempted to fill with the familiar. Let Him write a new chapter. He's not done. He's still protecting. He's still planning. He's still preparing someone whose name won't shake your spirit but will stir your faith. And when that man comes, there will be no warnings, only peace, only confirmation, only love rooted in Christ, steady and sure. Maybe you thought He was part of your answered prayer, but God sees past the charm, beyond the gestures, behind the smiles. He sees the spirit. And when He warns you, He is not trying to ruin your hope. He is trying to rescue it before it becomes attached to something that was never sent from Him. Type yes if you trust God's hand over your heart. Sometimes the most painful protection is when God steps in quietly. There may be no great betrayal, no big fight, no public sign. Just silence. Just distance. Just a slow unraveling. And you're left wondering why. You're left asking if you did something wrong, if maybe you misunderstood, but deep down something in your spirit knows. You just haven't wanted to admit it. You've seen the signs, subtle but steady. You've felt the tension between who He claims to be and who He really is. And now God is revealing it. Gently, lovingly, but firmly. When God asks you to let someone go, He isn't rushing you. He isn't pressuring you, but He is inviting you into truth. And truth always brings freedom, even if it first brings tears. That name, the one you kept holding on to in prayer, the one you wanted so badly to be right, has been pulling you away from the light inside you. It may not have been obvious, it rarely is. But when you pause long enough to listen not to the noise around you, but to God's quiet voice within you, start to hear it clearly. This man is not walking with me. He cannot walk with you. That kind of realization shakes you, because you wanted it to work. You thought you could wait for Him to change. You believed in the potential. You saw glimmers of who He could be. But God is not calling you to love someone's potential while sacrificing your peace. He is not asking you to dim your discernment in order to keep someone in your life. If someone is not aligned with God now, if their presence is watering confusion more than clarity, then God is asking you to trust Him with the exit, even if it feels early, even if it feels sudden. Type 222 if you're ready to follow God, not feelings. A powerful 7-second morning ritual, once hidden in CIA files, is resurfacing, and people are already seeing fast financial breakthroughs. It takes only seconds, yet activates a dormant wealth center in the brain most people never access. Click the link in the description and comments now. Access it before it disappears. You were never meant to carry a relationship that leaves you drained. You were never meant to chase someone for affection, clarity, or consistency. And most importantly, you were never meant to stay bound to someone just because you once prayed for them. Sometimes God says yes. Sometimes He says not yet. And sometimes, when His love for you sees danger ahead, He says no. And that no is not punishment. It is protection covered in wisdom. You may not see what God sees. You may not know what would have happened 5 years from now, but God does. And He loves you too much to let you walk into a future that would eventually wound you in ways you wouldn't recover from easily. God's protection is not always comfortable, but it is always right. It might cost you a connection, but it will save your spirit. It might leave you crying today, but it will leave you rejoicing tomorrow. He's not just saving you from a man. He's saving you from a path that would have taken you away from your calling, your peace, and the deeper parts of your relationship with Him. That is the kind of love He gives. A love that steps in, a love that interrupts, a love that says, "No more pretending this is okay." If your spirit feels unsettled around Him, if your time with Him leaves you feeling less certain about who you are in God, if you have to keep convincing yourself to stay, that is not peace. That is not the fruit of God's presence. That is your warning. That is the Lord calling you closer to Himself, away from someone who may care about you, but cannot carry you. And God never calls you to carry someone who refuses to walk with Him. You might ask why the connection was allowed in the first place, why you had to go through it at all. But even in this, there is purpose. Sometimes, the man you need protection from is part of a bigger lesson. Maybe God was teaching you to listen more closely to His voice. Maybe He was revealing how deeply you still want to be loved and showing you that only He can love you completely first. Or maybe He was preparing you to recognize the real thing when it comes, so you never settle for a counterfeit again. Whatever the reason, this moment is sacred. This is where healing begins. This is where trust grows. This is where your future takes a better turn. Not because you forced it, but because you followed. Let that man go, even if it hurts. Bless him silently. Pray for him genuinely. But do not remain attached to something God has asked you to release. Not all connections are meant to lead to covenant. Some were just chapters. Some were just lessons. Some were only meant to draw you back to the one who never left. Let God have the final say over your relationships. He doesn't miss what you can't see. He doesn't overlook what others try to hide. And He never tells you to walk away unless He's already prepared what's next. Your life is not behind you, it's unfolding. And the next name God brings into your life won't require you to fight for peace. It won't pull you away from prayer. It won't blur your sense of purpose. It will feel right not just emotionally, but spiritually. And until that day, let this be the season where you listen, obey, and trust the one who knows you best. Maybe it belongs to someone who once made you feel seen. Someone who spoke kindly, showed up at the right time, and brought a sense of peace you hadn't felt in a long while. But now, the peace is fading. The conversations that once comforted you leave you restless. The presence that once made you smile now stirs anxiety in the quiet, and you don't know why, but God does. He always knows. Type Amen if you believe God protects before pain even arrives. You've been trying to make sense of it, replaying memories in your mind, looking for the moment it shifted. You want to believe it can be fixed. That maybe with time, with patience, with prayer, he'll become who you hoped he was. You keep reaching, hoping the man you first saw will come back. But what if he was never really that man? What if God allowed you to see only part of the picture, so you would lean on him for the rest? What if that name was never tied to your destiny, only placed in your path to teach you how to listen more closely to God's voice? This isn't about blame. It's not about hate. It's not even about him anymore. This is about you and how deeply your Father in heaven wants to protect what he placed inside you. He sees your heart, how soft it is, how deeply you love, how much you've carried without complaint. He knows how long you've waited and how you've prayed to be loved fully and rightly. And that's why he won't let you settle. That's why he's whispering now, louder than before, "This is not the man I chose for you." It might not feel like a warning in the way you expected. There may be no disaster, no betrayal, no dramatic ending. Sometimes the most powerful warnings come quietly through distance, through unanswered prayers, through a restlessness that won't go away. That's how God speaks when he wants you to pay attention. Not to punish, not to confuse, but to gently guide you out before you get too far in. He is not trying to take something from you. He's trying to give you something better, but to receive it, your hands must be free, your heart must be open, and your spirit must be willing to obey. Type 555 if you're choosing God's peace over temporary attachment. There's courage in letting go. Courage in choosing to trust what you feel in your spirit, even when your emotions try to convince you otherwise. It takes strength to walk away from something that looks good on the surface, but doesn't sit right with your soul. That kind of strength doesn't come from within, it comes from above. And God will give it to you gently, faithfully, every time you ask. He will not leave you trembling in the middle of the goodbye. He will hold you as you take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. A simple but powerful 7-second at-home ritual. It's hidden in CIA files for years, is now changing lives rapidly. Backed by neuroscience research, it can begin shifting your financial direction in just days. Click the link in the description and comments now, and step into abundance today. Don't be afraid to release the name. Don't be afraid to speak the truth God has shown you, even if no one else understands. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. You are not being too spiritual or too sensitive. You are being led. And that matters more than how anything looks on the outside. Let God be your guide, not emotions, not timelines, not pressure, not guilt, only Him. The man He's protecting you from may not be evil. He may not mean to hurt you, but he may not be able to love you in the way God knows you deserve. He may not have the capacity to walk with you into the next season of your purpose. And sometimes protection doesn't come because someone intends to harm you. It comes because they are not equipped to carry you where God is taking you. And if you stay connected too long, you'll begin to shrink to fit where God already told you to grow. You were never meant to stay stuck in a cycle of almost peaceful, almost loved, almost enough. God doesn't call you into halfway healing or partial joy. He calls you into fullness, into deep rest, into a kind of love that reflects His heart. If a man is pulling you away from that, if he is draining your spirit more than feeding your faith, then that name must be surrendered. Not in anger, not in fear, but in full trust. The days ahead might feel strange at first. You'll miss what was familiar. Your heart may ache in the quiet moments, but you will feel lighter. You will sleep more peacefully. You will pray with clarity again. That fog that's been clouding your mind will begin to lift, and slowly your spirit will rise, because what God is doing in this moment is deeper than the surface. He is healing the part of you that believed you had to hold on to keep from being alone. But you are not alone. You never were. The same God who is asking you to walk away is the same one who will walk with you. He will fill the space that man used to occupy, and he will pour into you everything you were hoping to receive from someone else. God is your safe place, your healer, your Father, and he will never call you away from someone without also drawing you closer to himself. But the deeper you've gone, the more you've started to feel something shift, not in the man but in you. You've started questioning your peace, your laughter doesn't come as easily, and the soft voice in your spirit has grown louder, more insistent, more urgent, telling you something's not right. Type 1212 if you're choosing to walk by faith, even when it's hard. God never reveals a name without purpose. He never speaks to cause division, but always to bring healing. And sometimes that healing begins by drawing you away from what is quietly hurting you. This man, the one God is asking you to release, may not be doing anything visibly wrong. He might be kind. He might be respectful. But kindness without spiritual alignment is not enough. Respect without direction is not enough. A man can carry good intentions and still lead you into a season of confusion. He can say all the right things, but if his presence pulls you away from God instead of drawing you nearer, he is not meant to walk beside you. You were made for more than a love that leaves you doubting your own spirit. You were made for more than a connection that costs you clarity. And your Father in heaven is not standing by silently. He is speaking. He is pointing. He is calling you to see what's beneath the surface, not with your eyes but with your spirit, because God knows that love isn't built on moments, it's built on peace. And if peace is always slipping through your fingers, it's time to step back and ask why. Sometimes God's protection doesn't look like a wall. Sometimes it looks like a whisper, a quiet sense that something is off, a soft pressure in your chest that won't go away, a message that keeps coming back to you in prayer, even when you try to ignore it. That is how the Lord guards your steps, not with fear but with discernment. And if you felt that stirring, that nudge, that holy discomfort, don't brush it away. Don't tell yourself it's doubt. It's not doubt, it's direction. You might be wrestling inside, asking why God would bring you this far only to pull you away. But he's not pulling you away from love. He's pulling you away from the illusion of it. What feels like love isn't always love. Sometimes it's just familiarity. Sometimes it's attention. Sometimes it's the fear of being alone dressed up as connection. But love, the kind that reflects the heart of God, won't make you feel like you're too much. It won't demand that you silence your spirit. It won't cause you to sacrifice your joy in exchange for someone else's comfort. That's not God's design. That's not his will for you. Type 1919 if you're choosing God's will over your own feelings. It's okay to grieve what's ending. It's okay to feel the weight of letting go. God understands your tears. He sees every unspoken word, every silent hope, every moment you wanted it to be different. But he also sees the road ahead, and he knows that if you stay, your spirit will begin to sink, your prayers will begin to fade, your purpose will begin to dim. He loves you too much to let that happen. So he's stepping in now, gently, strongly, lovingly, to tell you the truth, even if it hurts. The name he's showing you is not cursed, it's just not chosen, not for you, not for this next season. And that doesn't make that man evil. It doesn't make you foolish for loving him. It just means the path must change. You can still pray for him. You can still wish him well. But you cannot tie your soul to someone God is asking you to walk away from. You cannot ignore the signs and expect peace to return. Peace doesn't grow in disobedience. It only blossoms when we trust, even when we don't understand. What if wealth was never about luck, but a hidden brain signal buried in CIA files? This frequency is opening doors, attracting opportunities, and changing lives quickly. Thousands are already using it to attract wealth like never before. Click the link in the description and comments now, and activate the money-attracting brainwave today. One day you will look back and see how God was protecting you in ways you didn't recognize at the time. You will thank Him for the nights He kept you awake when you wanted to stay asleep. You will praise Him for the strength He gave you to walk away when everything in you wanted to hold on. And you will see how He was never taking love from you. He was leading you to real love, the kind that mirrors His heart, the kind that lasts. You are not weak for letting go. You are not broken because it didn't work. You are brave, you are covered, and you are being held by a God who only speaks truth. If He said beware, believe Him. If He said the name out loud in your spirit, don't ignore it. He never does anything without reason. And the same way He gave you the courage to trust, He will give you the courage to heal. Don't be afraid of the space that opens up when you let go. God will fill it. Not with noise, not with distraction, but with peace, with rest, with clarity, and in time, with someone whose name will not bring fear, confusion, or hesitation, but joy, alignment, and a steady kind of love that feels like coming home. Until then, trust the process. Trust the pause. Trust the protection. And that's what makes it so painful. That's what makes it so confusing. You feel torn between loyalty and truth, between memory and peace. But God does not call you out of something without reason. When He speaks, especially when He speaks a name, it is never careless, it is never random, it is divine guidance covered in love. Type 222 if you believe God sees the hearts you cannot see. This man may not be the villain of your story. He may not have done anything drastic or harmful in a way the world would notice, but God doesn't judge by the surface. He searches the heart, and He sees how this person's spirit moves through yours. You've felt the shift, haven't you? You've sensed the unrest that you tried to ignore. You've felt the silence grow heavier, the distance wider, and your prayers quieter. You've begun to ask questions you're afraid to answer. You've begun to wonder why your joy is fading even though you're trying to hold on. The reason it hurts is because your soul knows the truth, but your heart hasn't caught up yet. That's where God steps in, not to condemn, but to carry you through. He's not trying to rip something away. He's trying to release you from a weight you were never meant to carry. You see, some men are not meant to wound you in obvious ways. They come into your life subtly, filling a space, occupying time, and gradually building a place in your heart. But God knows that presence alone does not equal purpose. And if a man is not aligned with where God is taking you, then he becomes a distraction, no matter how sweet, no matter how gentle, no matter how kind. God isn't asking you to hate Him. He's not asking you to erase every memory. He's simply asking you to trust His protection over your own plans. Trust that the unease is not just your imagination. Trust that the quiet discomfort is not just fear, it's discernment. And discernment is a gift from God, one He gives to keep you safe, to keep you centered, and to keep you close to Him. When that gift starts stirring, listen. You won't always get the full explanation, but you will get peace when you obey. Type 2323 if you know peace follows obedience. God knows how deeply you care. He sees how hard you've tried to make it work. He's counted every tear, every silent prayer, every night you stayed awake wondering if you should hold on or let go. He sees the parts of you that still believe in the good, but He also sees the parts of you that are becoming smaller, quieter, more uncertain because of a connection that once felt like comfort, but is now becoming a quiet cage. And God didn't call you to live inside a cage. He called you to walk in freedom, in clarity, in peace. There are people who come into your life with timing that feels divine. Maybe they did help you heal. Maybe they spoke life into you when you needed it. But not every temporary healing is a lifelong promise. Some people were only meant to carry you part of the way, and the danger is in holding on when their time has passed. The danger is in staying bound to someone who once served a purpose but now stunts your growth. And that is why God speaks when He does. That is why He is showing you now. Because He knows what happens when you stay one season too long. He knows the damage that comes from ignoring a spiritual warning. There's no shame in loving someone who wasn't meant to stay. There's no failure in hoping they might become the one. But there is wisdom in knowing when to release what no longer brings you closer to God. There is power in surrendering what looks good but no longer feels right. And there is healing in letting God be the one who decides who belongs in your life, because He never removes without restoring. He never closes one door without opening another. And the love He has for you is too vast to let you settle in something that's slowly breaking your spirit. You might feel alone in this. Others might not understand. They may tell you to give it more time, to be patient, to wait it out. But they don't see what God sees. They don't hear what your spirit hears. This is not about pleasing others. This is about protecting your peace. This is about trusting that if God is saying, beware, then something unseen is happening beneath the surface. And it may not be about danger, it may simply be about misalignment. And that alone is enough. A 7-second at-home ritual, scientifically proven by neuroscience labs and hidden for decades in CIA files, is now public, and people are seeing money flow into their lives. Scientists say it activates a brain pathway linked to abundance. Click the link in the comments below before this knowledge disappears again. You don't have to carry this on your own. God is with you. He's not rushing you, but He is guiding you. He's not pressuring you, but He is pulling you toward truth. And the longer you wait, the heavier it becomes. But the moment you say yes to His leading, even in the middle of your tears, even in your confusion, there will be release. There will be rest. There will be that sacred peace that only comes when you know you've finally obeyed. This is not the end of your story. It's a turn in the road, yes, but it's leading to something beautiful. It's leading to a deeper strength, a fuller healing, and in time, a love that will not make you question your place in it. You won't have to pray for clarity every day. You won't feel like you're walking on uncertain ground. When God writes your love story, it will bring peace, not doubt, not fear, not silence. So let go of the name. Let go of the hope you tied to it. Thank God for the lesson. Thank Him for the season. But trust Him for the future. He sees it already, and He's already prepared the one who will walk with you, not against you. The one who will protect your peace, not test it. This man may not be cruel. He may not speak harshly or act with open disrespect. In fact, he may still say all the right things, words that sound sincere, moments that feel like hope, patterns that echo love. But God sees beyond the performance. He sees beyond the gestures. He looks at the intentions, the patterns hidden beneath the surface, the places where compromise is slowly taking root. He sees how your spirit is bending to keep the peace, how your faith has started shrinking to keep the connection alive. And that's not love. That's not godly. That's not what God wants for you. He wants you to walk in peace that doesn't fade when the conversation ends. He wants your heart to be steady, not surviving on temporary highs. He wants your spirit to be full, not constantly drained by overthinking, doubting, and waiting for someone to become what you need. God never designed love to leave you second-guessing your worth. And He never designed relationships to become distractions from His presence. You've tried to justify it. You've told yourself He's a good man, just going through something. You've convinced yourself that if you're patient enough, He'll change. That if you love hard enough, He'll rise into the man you see glimpses of. But God never asked you to play savior. He asked you to follow Him. And following Him means walking away from anything that is pulling you out of alignment with His peace.